Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Cory, Reid, Vanas. Did I get that
Correct.
right?
Yes,
You
thank
know,
you.
it's funny, Cory. I always want to practice with my guests beforehand, and then sometimes I do, and then I still forget. So that's my short-term memory. So
You got it
Cory
great.
is a
Thank
founder
you.
of Rocky Mountain Counseling Collective in Denver. He has extensive experience working with teens, college students, adults, and athletes of various ages in a therapeutic sense. He's also available to provide expert insight for a range of mental health issues, including but not limited to depression, anxiety, trauma, life coaching, autism, divorce, and grief. Cory, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today. I'm happy to be here.
No, it's my pleasure. So, Cory, tell us a little bit about yourself. What was that aha moment? What was your journey like to, be the founder of Rocky Mountain Counseling Collective in Denver? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, thanks, Will. So Rocky Mountain Counseling Collective, we started providing services 13 years ago. And it's the journey was real and very personal for myself as I grew up on the East Coast and moved to Colorado and went to grad school to become a therapist and started working with young people primarily, and then kind of expanded to working with families and couples and just supporting people along their mental health journey. And obviously we all have our own experiences and things to work through. And I think that, it's been a real privilege and honor to work in this space and support many, many clients over the years. We've expanded into a group practice. We currently have 11 therapists on staff, and we work with a lot of people in the Denver area and all throughout the state of Colorado, and doing some really good work and supporting people in their mental health and in their relationships.
And today's topic is a good one, right? Relationship issues in today's society. And the thing is, Cory, I just see that, from what I'm reading and from what I see in other podcasters, other shows about dating, it seems like it's becoming more and more transactional. It seems
Mm.
like, a woman might ask for a guy's credentials in terms of what he makes than his character or his soul or whatever, and a guy's looking at a woman's pictures on Instagram and thinks, this one might be easy to get to. It just seems like it's so different from when I was growing up in the 90s and
Mhm.
early 2000s. It just seems more transactional. Is that what you're seeing or hearing? What's your take on it in today's modern dating?
Yeah, the narrative in Denver is, or the nickname for Denver is Menver, and they say there's a lot of men here, and there's a certain type of kind of personality that is creates some interesting dynamics in the dating scene. I will say, Will, I think that everybody's journey and process to finding a relationship, to deciding whether a relationship, being coupled is a good fit for them, is unique and individual. And given how connected we are today, there are these, common stories that are told about how terrible it is out there and how maybe transactional it can be. And what I would say is, some of that's probably true. And speaking to, just on that individual level, to really think about what your values are, what work you need to do individually to be in a good headspace, in a good heart space, to be in a relationship with somebody. Do that work, and think about what's really important to you. Which, depending on what you're looking for, right? That it's beyond just physical attributes or career success and things like that. I think uh, the bottom line is that you want somebody that you feel connected to, that you feel like you can build a life together, versus somebody that has something that you think um, looks good in an Instagram or on Facebook photo.
Yeah, I would love to see it back, when because talking about a friend of mine, right? She's in her mid-20s, and uh and I ask her how's the dating scene, and for her, she says that the men are not courting anymore.
Mm,
That basically it's getting to know you, going out, and then maybe on the second date, inviting you upstairs. And
mm.
the new term now I hear, Corey, is Netflix and chill. I'm like, all these terms these young people coming up with. Um, are we seeing that courting is almost a thing of the past now for some people? I mean, maybe for others not, but for some people, some of the women are always, but even some older women that I've seen, some celebrities are talking about that they're in their 40s now, and they say that men don't even court anymore.
Mm.
Again, like I said, it seems transactional, for some people, for others, no. But is courting losing its way now in this modern day of dating?
Yeah, Will, I think that one thing that I will try to avoid is making definitive statements about the landscape of dating. And what I will say in response to what you're talking about is the value, the importance of communication and being
Mhm.
transparent about what it is that you want, what it is that you need, what your values are. And I think that in that process, you're more likely to get that in return from somebody that you're potentially interested in having a relationship with. And that we haven't done the best job in our society in terms of teaching young people. And then as they get to become less young people, they start to get older. We haven't taught people well around open, honest, transparent communication, right?
Mhm.
Understanding what your needs are, what your goals are, what your values are, and bringing that to the conversation so there can be mutual respect and understanding in a way that leads you to that person that you would like to be in partnership with. And I think that there are plenty of places to access all of the horror stories of the dating if you're dating, and
Right.
those are real. I think people experience those. They wouldn't be out there if they weren't real. And I also think that there are lots of stories of people um, building connections and finding partnerships that are meaningful and deep. And I think that my recommendation, or you maybe couldn't call it advice, is start with your own personal work, your own individual work, understanding yourself, the things that come up for you uh, when you're in relationships, and work on that. So when you enter into a relationship, you're prepared to then work on the partnership. And so there's this shift from the individual work to the collective work of the partnership. Doesn't mean your individual work is done. It just
Right.
means that there's that plus the couple work that happens when you find someone that you're wanting to partner with.
Has social media taking over, or let me try to come up with a better phrase. Has social media become such a force that because of that, there is a lack of communication because everything is running through text now
Mm.
or photos? What are you seeing out there? What do you think of that? Because it seems everything is through text now. Even the younger people, even the older people, everything seems through text and Instagram or TikTok, and phone calls. Where the art of a phone
Yeah.
call seems to be lost here.
Yeah. Well, there's no question that social media loves drama and gossip. And so we're going to get a lot of, these wild and crazy stories about people's dating lives on social media. And so just be aware of that, and be aware that, this might be an extreme case or an extreme situation that someone is sharing on social media, and that there are plenty of other um, more benign examples of people falling in love and building relationships with each other that aren't, Hollywood worthy and or even social media worthy, that are, in some ways, quote unquote boring, or less dramatic, or less gossip worthy. And again, I would say that no matter what the platform for communication is being authentic, being transparent, being honest about who you are and what you want and what you're looking for, and being discerning about where you're spending your time and energy looking. And
Mm,
there's dating apps have increased our ability to access and connect with people, and it goes back to a really common or a very simple term of quality or quantity, and looking for opportunities for quality connection, and um, people that are have the skills to communicate openly and honestly, versus the quantity approach, where you're just swiping right, swiping left. It's been a while
yeah.
since I actually met my wife on a dating app, but it's been a long time since I've been on a dating app, so I don't even remember the details of how it works. So
Well, okay, so I'll give you that because you did meet your wife on a dating app. I am against that personally because of a lack of communication. Let's put it that way, Corey.
mm,
Where let's say someone reaches out to me and says, "Hey, interesting, blah blah blah," and I come back, and then they come back a third time,
mm,
or let's say they initiate contact, then I respond and then I don't hear from them. So, okay,
yeah,
fine. So for me, I just like being at like-minded events.
yeah, sure,
Whether it's through meetup.com or social events, because here in New York City, and I know you said you were, I think, born in Albany. If
yep,
you were in the city, to me, the landmark I call New York is Central Park.
yeah,
And so we have a community there where we go roller skating, whatever. And I met a couple of nice women there during my time there. I just don't see that anymore. It seems like again, like I going back, it's just through apps and whether it's social media or dating apps. You might be one of the few people I know that met someone there because everybody's, wants to meet people like, in person. Again, is the physical contact of talking to somebody in person, is that going away because somebody's shy or someone's afraid to say anything? Or, because now I hear if a date is bad, then the woman's gonna go to on TikTok and complain about the guy. I'm like, wow,
mm,
so now I'm hearing that guys are shying away from approaching women. Yeah,
mm,
I mean, one thing I like about this quarter, we're pretty much covering the all spectrum of dating in a
yeah.
way.
Well, and Will, I think you bring up a really important point, which is there's lots of different ways to date and
Yeah.
to look for a partner. And, the common one is dating apps in this day and age. And I think
Mm,
that people are still finding partners and connecting with people in ways that people have done it historically, right? More traditional ways. And I think
yeah.
that, that's a classic one, right? Which is finding a common activity or hobby of interest to you know look for people to connect with in that way. And I think that's a great way to do it. And so on a very personal level, I have people in my life, clients and friends and family that are on the dating apps, and then also meeting people outside of it. And you know, I personally, and I think it really does come from the professional work that I've done, is that I think that, um, there's, if there's some dissatisfaction in what's happening, take a step back, take a deep breath, and think about what is it that you're really wanting? What is the goal? What is it that you're looking for? And evaluating, is there an adjustment that needs to be made to the approach that you're taking. And it could
Mm,
be deeper, it could be doing some individual work on yourself. It could be adjusting, shifting from dating apps to looking for maybe more in-person ways to connect with people. There's a lot of different things that we can evaluate in terms of the approach that I think is really important. And I will share with some level of transparency. Prior to meeting my wife, I was doing a lot of individual work with a therapist that had some expertise in relationships. And
Mm,
I met my wife a little bit older. I had had some relationships in the past that didn't work out. And I was recognizing that I needed to do some individual work to get myself ready, to get my heart ready to actually think about marriage and long-term committed relationship. And that work was really helpful for me. And it made it so the dating app, ended up being a successful experience for me. And so remembering that there's not just one way. And
right.
similar to what we see on social media, a lot of what we're told is that dating apps are the only way. Well, that's just not true. It's just not true. There's lots of different ways that people meet each other. And so reminding ourselves that maybe the dominant narrative that we're hearing is not the only way. There's a lot of there's a lot of paths to finding somebody.
You hit on something. To me, it's becoming self-aware of, let's say, besides your surroundings, but of yourself in terms of a pattern of dating. And I
Mhm.
had to go through that, Corey, about 5, 6 years ago, when I realized, I'm like, okay, all these relationships I had, I say maybe one or two worked out. And I'm like, what was the common theme? And it was me. I was always being too nice. I was always being too accommodating. I was always
Mhm.
available. And at that point, I realized that I was letting go things that I wanted to do to please the woman, and 9 out of 10 times it just didn't work. And I think you hit on the head, is just becoming self-aware, talking to somebody. So if
Yeah.
you meet someone like that, a young man or whatever, I mean, for me, I realized that I was in my 50s, and I remember walking out of this place I was at, and I'm walking towards a train, and I remember I was just, I always had my headphones on, listen to music, always the noise. I turned it off and I just started thinking, okay, this is what I need to do. I started reading books. I
Mhm.
started listening to other podcasters, about, you know, uh, self-development and becoming more aware of my surroundings, for a lack of a better phrase. And you hit that on the head. I think a lot of us just don't do that. We just go through life and not realizing, okay, is this something that I'm doing? Some people blame other people. I'm one of the few that I know in my circle. I had to take accountability because I'm the one that was screwing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Will, I think you're really speaking, yeah, I'm biased. I'm a therapist. I was raised by a therapist. I'm actually a third generation therapist.
Yeah,
I didn't intend to follow in my mom and grandmother's footsteps, but here I am.
yeah,
And it's one of the best gifts that I've been given, and I've still had to do a lot of personal work and
yeah.
continue to do personal work along with relational work with my wife and now my daughter, and so it's the piece that I would want to add to that is in this day and age, we have access to an incredible amount of information, especially
Mm,
in this realm. And
yeah.
the stigma connected to mental health and relationship challenges has lowered. And that's a positive thing. And so we have access to an incredible amount of information, almost, I wouldn't say too much information, but
But how would you weed it out, right? I mean,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's
no
what I
problem.
was thinking. Yeah.
Hey, I'm originally from New York. If we're not interrupting each other, we're not talking, right? And so
100%.
I welcome it. And honestly, the piece of it is it's yes, you want to find the right type of information for the thing that you're working on or thinking through or feeling through. And the piece of it that I always talk to clients about is how do you integrate that information? Because a lot of the information is very much the same or similar. It's just dressed up a little bit differently, or it's somebody has just said it in a different way. And so find um, some information that resonates with you. And in regards to relationship stuff, I've got actually a list right here. I'll just kind of list it
Sure.
off because we've got some really great people out there that have done research, and it's, evidence based, and it's, it's good information. So we've got Sue Johnson, John and Julie Gottman, Stan Tatkin, Terrence Real, and Alexandra Solomon are some of the people that I would recommend. And then, of
Okay.
course, Esther Perel. If you don't know Esther Perel, Google Esther Perel and listen to some of her content. It is awesome. Um, and then personally, I've been spending some time with Terrence Real's content, and I think
Okay.
his content in particular is really powerful for men, especially heterosexual men. And
Mm.
I've found his information to resonate deeply for me as a guy. Um, so the point that I want to make is what we call integration. And so a lot, especially for men, spend a lot of time up here intellectualizing,
Mm.
philosophizing about life and relationships. And the integration work is what we talk when we talk about going from here down into the body and really
Right.
integrating it from a somatic perspective. So it actually shows up in your life and in your relationships versus, we can intellectualize, we can be an academic about life and relationships. But we got to figure out how to bring it into actually how we show up as individuals and as a partner in a relationship.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important about uh just to me working with someone or reading something or I mean again it's just being self-aware and I'm telling you Corey it hit me in the gut because it was more not the fact that there was no love there from the woman but it was also a financial burden on me and that I take that more because again it's everything was always yes 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 and I had to
Mhm.
had to say no on occasion and sometimes it was hard but again, it's just becoming self-aware. Like I was reading, I was listening to other people and all that. First of all, Corey, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Day. I could probably talk to you for another couple of hours.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, talk more about your practice.
Yeah, so as I said, we're based in Denver, and we serve people primarily the Denver metro area, and
Hmm.
then kind of expand out, the state of Colorado. We have 11 therapists, and some of our therapists have licensure outside of Colorado. Long term, we're hoping that therapists are going to be able to see people across the country. We're not quite there yet, but there's some work that's happening there. You
Okay.
know, Will, the thing I'll say about our practice, which I think is a really important part, is that it's all about the relationship. And so when we
Hmm.
think about working with clients, I mean, you can see, I'm at our office space right now. It's very down to earth. It's not fancy. It's a very comfortable, grounded place. And what we have found is specific with therapy, the most important thing is the relationship between the client and the therapist. And of course, you want your therapist to have some training and, background and expertise in some areas that you're working on, but the relationship is the most important thing. And we're talking all about relationships today.
Yeah.
And the reality is that they're the hardest thing that we have to figure out in this life, in this lived experience. And we know that they're really important to our health and happiness, and they're beautiful when they go well. And learning the skills to figure out how to be in relationship with others. We spend a lot of time, with that, with kids that are young, and then we kind of forget about it, and
Mhm.
people struggle. And so, a lot of what we're doing at Rocky Mountain Counseling Collective is relationship work. Sometimes it's relationship with self. A lot of times
Mhm.
it's relationships with others, and that can be family, friends, coworkers, all the different styles of relationships we experience. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, I encourage people to do the work and to
Yeah.
spend time to, understanding yourself and understanding yourself in relationships, and I think it's worth the effort.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. And where can people find you if they want to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so our website is www.rmcchealth.com. You can always, reach out to us through the website. We've got a phone number, we've got a contact us page. We're happy to talk to people even outside of the state of Colorado, just to be a resource, a sounding board of where to look, how to get connected, whether you're in Colorado or outside of Colorado. There's lots of resources out there. And then also figuring out which is the right one for you. We're happy to have some of those conversations with folks. And so probably our website is the best place to connect.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that on the show notes. Well, again, Corey, again, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Will. It's good to meet you. Appreciate your time.
Yep, me too. Bye bye.